Hi, thank you for joining this new SSS webinar. Today, we will talk about the way you can recruit digit-proof candidates who are more suitable than others when it comes to evolving in our constantly changing environment. But before beginning, we'd like to briefly introduce ourselves. So, I'm Bernard, business psychologist, CEO and co-founder of SSS. I'm in charge of the product strategy and vision for the company.
And I'm John, the account executive. I'm responsible for customers in the UK and English-speaking markets.
Nowadays, the environment we are living in is often described by experts as being VUCA. V for velocity. In fact, everything is evolving faster and faster at an unprecedented rate. U for uncertainty. Changes can now happen more suddenly than ever before. C for complexity. We are confronted with more and more data every single day. And finally, A for ambiguity. It's not often so obvious how to deal with all this data around us. How can we make our best decisions based on all that? That is a real challenge. And on the top of that, we have to take into account three recent phenomena. The first one is the overload of data we can see everywhere. The second one is the disintermediation of all the business around us. The third one, probably the most impactful, is the automation phenomena. Let's take the first one, data overload. More than ever, we are bombarded with data, especially when we browse the internet. It can be when you are looking to buy this new fancy telephone, when we shop around for that next incredible pair of Louboutins, or when you're planning your next holidays for the family. On TripAdvisor, for example, you can access all the reviews written by the author and the other travelers to discover how good this hotel is, how comfortable the mattress was, or how crowded the swimming pool is in the evening. On Amazon, you can see what people think about that book your friend told you about. You can even discover the other items that were purchased by those who enjoyed the book. And it's also all about HR. Candidates have websites that do the same thing. On Glassdoor, for example, candidates can access reviews of other candidates like them. They can have insights concerning the question recruiters ask during interviews. They can have a sense of the culture of this or that particular company, reading what the employees say about it. And the result is that when people are walking into a real kind of a brick and mortar shop, it's essentially to directly buy the product that they have already researched in detail online. In fact, every time a potential customer walks into a shop, 90% of the purchase decision has already been made. It's no more a question of comparing the characteristics or the technical aspects of different products. What people want when they go in the shop is to touch the products and enjoy a great experience. The second phenomena is the disintermediation phenomena. In almost every aspect of our lives, internet companies have disrupted the way we do business. It can be Amazon in the booking industry. We can say without the risk of being wrong that they literally give nightmares to bootshop owners. It is Uber or Lyft in the transportation services. Booking or Airbnb, which revolutionized the everyday life of hotel owners. Even the dating industry has been disintermediated with websites like Match.com or Tinder. And now, with blockchain, it's time to disintermediate the financial markets. And what is certain is that HR will sooner or later be hit by this trend. The third phenomena we would like to tell you about is the automation phenomena. It is, without a doubt, the one that will have the biggest impact on our lives in the near future. The thing has all begun with the automation of some of the most basic level jobs. Those that require strength or being ultra precise when accomplishing various types of ultra specialized tasks. And today, we already are in the second era of automation. Now, it's time for justice, medicine, and recruitment to be revolutionized by algorithm and AI-driven decisions. Potentially, all the jobs that require to manipulate data, loads of data, will be affected, especially when this analysis of data will lead to the most possible effective decision. And how can we do that? That is pretty simple. Take a particular task. What is it? How does a real human deal with that particular task? Most of the time, the way people proceed when confronted with a task is that they deploy a series of logical steps. If you can figure out and gather all those steps, you can create an algorithm. And after that, you can run the algorithm to do what you previously did by yourself multiple times at margin of the cost. Developing an algorithm is like creating superpowers that allow people to operate at an unprecedented speed and at a scale that they never think they could be capable of. But of course, not all tasks can be translated into an algorithm. For some of the tasks, it is obvious that the job can be done. Consider hiring, for example. Did you know that using a simple equation when you compare different candidates can lead to better prediction of job success than asking experts their opinion, even after they spend time doing interviews with each and every candidate? If it's not already done, I highly recommend you to take a look at this paper published on the Harvard Business Review website. It's absolutely stunning. We'll send you the link. So, as you can see, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The tasks that can easily be transformed into an algorithm are the ones that require skills like describing a situation, analyzing loads of data, organizing different pieces of work, structuring one's day, executing a series of predetermined steps, or even making accurate predictions based on data. Counter to that, the tasks that are far more difficult to model are the ones that require leading people, persuading them, negotiating, communicating, federating under a compelling vision, listening or taking care of others, creating or thinking out of the box. As a result of the rise of robots and algorithms, it is predicted that in under as little as 5 years, 50% of the skills people master today will be totally obsolete. On top of that, the Oxford University predicts that 47% of jobs will disappear by 2030. But if we want to adopt a more positive perspective, we can also say that 85% of the jobs we'll see by 2030 do not exist today, which represents an incredible opportunity for some of your people in your companies. At Assess First, we started to wonder how we can define the necessary skills required for people to survive this transition and remain relevant in that new world. So we started to work on the concept of digital proof profile.
Thank you, David. So we asked ourselves at Assess First, with this in mind, how can we help companies find profiles that are digital proof, the type of candidate that can withstand these great changes, and more than that, thrive and succeed in this kind of culture? What kind of profile will assist companies to make the changes necessary to succeed in this new era? So what we've done is to compare the kind of profiles that you find in traditional companies to other businesses which are clearly established within the digital age, that have the kind of profiles we're talking about. So we looked at our data, specifically that from 2006 to 2016, of over 5 million people within 30 different countries, to make an analysis of what that digital profile is. And going deep into the data, we created what we call a pattern identification, meaning what are the characteristic traits of the top 5% in terms of behavior, motivations, reasoning within the high-performing people working within a digital environment. And to do that, we looked at their potential. And this is at the heart of what Assess First does, meaning that within such a radically changing landscape, as described by David before, the essential skills of a candidate are actually to be found in the reasoning, how they think, how they make decisions, their natural learning style, their motivation, what they do, how they want to do it, with whom and why, their personality, their natural working style, how they work with others, and how they cope with more difficult situations. We created 3 evaluations to understand these 3 key factors. So brain, to understand how someone thinks, reacts and learns. Drive, to understand the fundamental needs of why someone is doing their job and what they love to do with it. And shape, to understand how someone will behave within the workplace. Once someone has completed all 3 of those assessments, we can describe in detail their natural talents, meaning we can identify very quickly the soft skills of an individual that they can perform more easily than another person. So, going back to our top 5%, within digital culture, what kind of profile are we looking to find? We're looking for people who think and engage faster and better. We have a score on our brain test, a general score, which gives you a sense of their intellectual ability, a score from 1 to 5. And what we call the G factor is a score of 4. People who are hitting this mark are going to be people who are more comfortable taking on new tasks, putting things into action, their competence and their ideas. We also identified that these profiles are people who are motivated by very specific characteristics. When you dig deep into people's drives and needs, obviously there are many factors there, but you can also see that these people can be motivated by stabilization, meaning motivations of preservation, of guarding their place, and those of movement, of energizing and dynamism. To understand this, we need to look at the notion of the comfort zone. So here you have 2 circles. The blue represents our comfort zone. So while we're there, we're pretty much at ease with the tasks that we're doing. The blue circle is where we're comfortable with our everyday tasks. We're not being stretched and we can easily get things done. And the red is outside of our comfort zone. It could be the unknown, activities, tasks that we're less comfortable with. What we can see is those people that are motivated by their preservation, by stabilizing themselves, stay within that comfort zone. And what you often find is that person will actually reduce the kind of tasks they do each day, that they will find it difficult to take new risks. Whereas the person being motivated by being energized, the person who perhaps can deal with this changing environment we've been speaking of, is someone who's willing to leave their comfort zone. This may not mean it's necessarily easy for them, and it can place them in a more pressured area, but with the guide of either a manager or a team, once that person has pushed themselves to attempt things not as natural for them, they will, after time, have increased their skills, increased their experience, and increased their natural capacity to do certain things, meaning their comfort zone also grows. If someone dares to try new things, perseveres, pushes themselves, they will finally be more at ease with a variety of situations. Like a muscle, like our intelligence, the more we push it, the more someone will be at home with a multitude of situations. And at the level of personality, those top 5% are characterized by 8 distinctive traits. So that's not to say that every individual without fail is going to hit these areas, but they are the traits that we've identified as regularly appearing in this kind of profile. So if you have a look here, the first is someone who is assertive with others, someone who's happy to take the lead and guide others. Their ability to convince others, their capacity to convey information, to offer a vision, to get their message across. And the third factor, a lower score in consulting others before making a decision. Someone who's relatively sure of themselves, who doesn't hesitate to make a decision. After we have 2 traits that signify that person's creativity and adaptability, first, demonstrates inventiveness, so to be able to think with originality and to have new ideas. And second is someone who can adapt to change. The tendency to see change as an opportunity rather than something that's menacing, and who understands that change is necessary to grow. Similarly, someone who perseveres when confronted with obstacles, who's not put off by the difficulty of doing something, someone who goes beyond their assigned tasks, who's not satisfied with doing the bare minimum, someone who always wants to give more. And finally, we're looking for a low score on seek stability. Clearly, in the kind of subject we've been talking about, we need someone who does not hesitate to put themselves in a more difficult situation when it is necessary. So what we've done is created a predictive model on our platform to help you identify those profiles that have a good chance in being adapted to a digital culture, in helping you to succeed in this new environment under the name A Player. You can use this model to identify the potential of a new candidate that is looking to join your company, or to help you understand who within your existing team has those strong talents present. So people who know our platform can see our predictive models there. And within those predictive models, we have up to 300 different job profiles that we've benchmarked down from all the big data there. But we've now added on the opportunity for you to also use this profile that we've been talking about under the name A Players. And you can see that we've marked down in that predictive profile all the characteristics we've been talking about in terms of their expected behaviors, in terms of personality. Also for drive, we're looking for someone who excels every day, has autonomy, develops in a changeable environment, has influence, makes a positive impact on the world, and achieves success regularly. And brain, as we're talking about an extreme profile, someone who's the top 5%, you can see that we've put a score of 5 for each one of the 4 areas that we analyze in brain. So analyzing situations, manipulate data, use knowledge, and manage the unexpected. We make it simple. All you have to do, if you have a prospective candidate who wants to take the evaluation, or you have people within your team that you'd like to assess using Assess First, is enter their email address, click go. Each 3 of those evaluations that I've spoke about, shape, drive, and brain, take 10 minutes to complete. And what you would receive back is something that looks like this. So we would give you information in terms of their preferred behaviors at work, how someone feels, how they think, how they act, how they influence, and how they cooperate. We'll talk about that person's personal style, their natural working style, their relationship to others, and their emotional management. We'll give talent tags with where that person excels, and we'll also talk about those areas where they can improve. In drive, we'll go through what motivates someone and what demotivates them. We talk about the kind of activities that that person prefers to do each day, so the kind of things that they love to do, where their natural talents lie. The kind of environment that they want to work in, and the kind of managerial style that they're looking to work with, and the culture in which they want to work, whether that's one of innovation, collaboration, organization, or competition. And finally, brain, we will go through how complex information can be, how complex data they can deal with and information that they can process, what kind of decision making they have, and again, their learning style in terms of information and how deep they go. And on every profile that you see on the Assess First platform, we've added on so that you can quickly identify an A player, this little green star in the corner, which will show you when you've got someone's profile immediately whether they're an A player, whether they're adapted to digital culture as we've been speaking about or not. And these are people to really notice within your team or to notice when they're applying for a job with you. When you click on, we've offered the opportunity for you to see more details where you can pull up their full predictive report. So here you can see on our example with Noah, this is someone with a 94% chance of succeeding within this digital culture that we've spoken about as an A player. And 94% is a very high score in terms of the possibility to succeed. We always say at Assess First, anyone with a scoring from 60% upwards has a great chance of succeeding in that role. When you go through, you have the opportunity to click on a full report where we go into a lot of detail in terms of that person's strengths and weakness with regard to that profile that we're speaking about. But just on our platform here, we give you the scoring in terms of their potential for shape, for drive, for brain. Again, this person has an enormous chance of succeeding, 100% on shape, 100% on drive, and 81% in terms of brain. Let's not forget that our brain scores were 5 each time, so extremely high. We talk about how that person's performance will be in terms of the profile, the pleasure that they would get out of that work, so their motivation to do it. And again, we go through where they hit those targets in terms of our benchmarking for those personality traits, which we've described also in a verbal way underneath. We make it practical. So not only are you able to look at individual profiles, but if you have a whole series of people which are applying for a job, you're able to look in our recruitment campaigns to see whether they hit the A player target. So what you see here is actually a predictive model of the A player that we've been talking about. And we have put through all the Assess First team so you can see their scoring in terms of A players. That's not to say if you're searching for certain roles that you're always going to look for an A player every time. If you're looking for a financial officer or an engineer, you may not necessarily want to see whether they hit the A player scale. But if you are a startup trying to get the best out of your team, or if you're a large company aware that you haven't made the transformation as yet and it's going to start to affect you soon, then being able to identify this kind of high potential profile in your team or prospective candidates can be really useful. David.
Thank you, John. And of course, we wanted to make our A player model ultra efficient. So we conducted different longitudinal studies following those so-called A players over months and even years, recording their performance, engagement, and contribution in the workplace. What we noted is, on average, they demonstrate a 150% better performance to their counterparts, the B and C players. They engage more and more in their work. They can learn 4 times as fast than their contemporaries, making better use in the long run of the training they attended. They also climb the ladder faster, 1.5 times faster than the other employees. So, at Assess First, we consider that our job as a partner is to help you achieve success. And when we talk about success, we talk about long-term success. That is the reason why every time we work with a client, we focus on demonstrating the return on investment that is linked to the implementation of our solution. And on average, what we see is that thanks to the use of Assess First and of the A player profile, companies can hire people that perform 15% more than the people they hired before using a more traditional hiring approach. They reduce their hiring costs by up to 20%. This is linked to the fact that they do less job interviews, but with more relevant people. They can speed up the hiring process by up to 30%. This is a simple consequence to having the right information for each and every candidate. They can also reduce their attrition rate by up to 50%. And again, nothing magic here. It is simply linked to the fact that they recruit people with the right talents, but also with the right motivations and drivers. We have customers like Burger King, for example. So since they've been using assessors, they reduce the attrition rate by up to 50% of the restaurant manager position. We also have clients like Le Berge des Marais, which is a big department store like Selfridges. And the assessors algorithm helps them to reduce their time to recruit from 45 to 30 days. And at the same time, the people they recruited generate 11% more revenue than the people they recruited before.
It's worth noting also that BHV don't use CVs at all when they're recruiting.
Absolutely.
Now, but only use the Assess First reports and algorithms in terms of choosing the people to come and work for them.
And we also have clients like Carrefour Market, for example. Of course, they use Assess First to make hiring, but they also use the solution to define personalized development plans for each and every of the people in the company. And like them, today, Assess First is 3,500 different customers across 30 different countries. And already it's already 5 million people who've been assessed using our solution. And today we work with companies across every kind of industries. It can be retail with Zara or Lidl, for example, services with companies like Burger King, industry with Total, with ArcelorMittal, Lafarge. We work with tech and consulting companies like Deloitte or Neuron IT, and we also work with numerous insurance and banking companies, like, for example, ING or AXA. And we also work with lots of consulting firms and recruitment agencies, like ACE or Morgan Phillips. And we work with more and more business schools, university or engineering schools.
So that's the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for everyone who's joined us today. I hope you enjoyed the content. And if you have any questions, you have the ability to write through and ask us anything that you want. So let's have a look if we've got anything there coming through. We've got one question here, which is, what is the distribution in terms of the people we've analysed who are A players, who fit this digital profile? It's a good question. We've noticed from the people that we've analysed, bear in mind that before we spoke about it being the top 5%, it being an extreme profile, a profile really that is very striking, that we've seen that people who get a score of between 60 and 70%, this is in terms of their potential to succeed, around 18% of the people we analysed got between 60 and 70. From 70 to 75, it was 4%, 75% and to 80 is just 1.3%, and 80% up is less than 1% of the population. So when you're looking at, for example, when we saw that score before of 98, it's a very, very rare profile, and it's definitely someone who's going to make a huge difference in your company.
We have another question. How does the solution integrate with other software? So that's also an interesting question. We developed an API, and with that API, theoretically, you can connect Assess First with your existing recruitment platform. For example, we already have connection with different software vendors like Talentsoft or SAP SuccessFactors. Mm-hmm. So whatever the software you use when you recruit, we can connect potentially with this platform.
That looks like that's it for the moment. Well, it just goes for us to thank everybody who joined us.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome to contact us at Assess First if you have any questions concerning this, and if you want to learn more about predictive recruitment and how our platform works. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.